spread the word of the Uluru Statement. That's one action that they can take, because a lot of people still haven't heard about it. I would love for them, and the reason for that is because the growing numbers of people that know about the Uluru Statement correlates to the growing number of people that say they'd vote yes referendum. And the other thing they can do is write to the politicians, call their officers to know that you're ready for a referendum and that they need to take us there. And those are two very important actions they can take.
Tila, what would be your message to Triple J listeners about Reconciliation Week, just quickly?
I think just remembering that this is just 1 week of the entire year, and it's important to stand in solidarity with First Nations peoples every day, because this is a journey our nation is on. It's an important one, and we have to be the generation to ensure that these structural changes, the First Nations Voice to Parliament and the Makarrata Commission, happen in our lifetime.
Tila Reid and Thomas Mayer, thank you so much for joining me on Triple J.
Thank you.
Thank you. On the Triple J text line, someone says, this is the least we could do when it comes to First Nations recognition.
We're not going to achieve net zero in the cafes, dinner parties and wine bars of our inner cities. On Triple J.
If you don't agree with something the government's doing, would you take them to court over it? Last year, a group of Australian teenagers did. They started a class action over how the government approves fossil fuel projects. And today they had this big win. The federal court ruled that the Environment Minister has a duty of care to protect young people from the effects of climate change. It's the first time this kind of ruling has happened in the world, and it could change the future of fossil fuel projects here in Australia. Dee Salmon has this story.
So this morning in Melbourne, pretty much at the same time we're getting the sad news about going into lockdown, a bunch of teenagers were out the front of the federal court celebrating. They just had a win with a really significant case. You might have heard about it mid-last year. 8 high school students from all around Australia came together with lawyers to sue our Federal Environment Minister, Susan Lee.
The landmark claim by a group of 8 teenagers, all under the age of 18, argues that the expansion of Whitehaven's Vickery coal mine will contribute to climate change.
Yeah, so basically the group wants to stop the approval for a new coal mine in northern New South Wales. It's called the Vickery Extension Project, and they reckon by approving this coal mine, the minister isn't protecting young people from the impact of global warming.
We face an increasing amount of natural disasters, and the climate is becoming livable for us.
Well, today the judge handed down their decision, and it's pretty huge.
This is a world first. This is the first time that a court anywhere in the world has found that a government minister has a duty to protect young people from climate harms. That's massive.
That's Jack McLean. He's one of the lawyers behind the case.
Our client's argument was that in exercising her powers as the Environment Minister to approve or not approve new coal projects, the Minister must act within her duty of care. She must consider the future harms that are likely to occur to young people from approving a new coal mine and must act within that duty.
So the students argued that digging up and burning coal will create global warming, and that's going to increase the likelihood of extreme weather events in the future, which will harm young people all over Australia. And so, yeah, Jack says for a federal court to say, yes, that is true, and yes, the minister does have a duty of care to protect young people is really significant and will be a huge benefit for all of us. But Jack says it's not completely over yet, because the judge didn't agree to stop the plans for the coal mine in New South Wales, which is what the group are fighting for.
This case is ongoing, and the judge has invited both parties to make further legal arguments about the nature of any orders that the judge may make in relation to the approval of the project.
This case is really important for showing the power of what a group of children, young people can do to make change on climate change.
Professor Jackie Peel from the University of Melbourne is an expert in climate change law, and she says from all the school strikes to court cases, young people all over the world are really creating some serious change.
Listen to the climate scientists.
So we've seen
cases like this, one of the first ones was in the United States brought by a group of children against the US government. We've also seen cases of this kind in Europe and here in Australia, both the recent case that's just come down today in the form of a judgment, but also another case in Queensland brought by Youth Verdict, where they're trying to oppose a coal mine based on human rights grounds as well.
But Jackie reckons what makes this decision today here in Australia really interesting is that because we've got a government that's being pretty slow when it comes to taking action on climate change or committing to a time frame for net zero.
Sure that we can get to that net zero economy as quickly as possible and preferably by 2050.
A federal judge acknowledging that the Environment Minister has a duty of care to young people might mean more power to prevent the creation of other coal mines in the future.
There's a movement going forward that's prompted by the lack of action at the federal level. I think we can expect to see more litigation and innovative approaches take into account our domestic laws and circumstances.
So yeah, Jackie says it's really starting to feel like change is happening.
Good idea,
Being
Jackie.
taken seriously by court.
The kids are all right.